Thanks for joining us today. I'm Cody Holyoke. It is safe to say we are in the thick of the campaign season. In just 37 days, voters will make some major decisions at the polls. We're talking balance of power in Congress and key issues and races in our two states. It's why groups like the League of Women Voters are working to get the word out about the importance of voting and knowing what you're voting for or against. They're working with the Kansas City Public Library to educate and inform voters ahead of Election Day.
We want voters to be, first of all, registered, and second, educated about what their choices are, so that when they go to that polling place, they're ready to cast a ballot that reflects who they are and what their beliefs are.
Special voter education events are set up at different libraries for the next couple of weeks. Go to the library's website to sign up. That is one of many efforts happening right now to get out the vote, especially in a midterm when voter turnout can be a little lacking. In fact, in the last midterm election in 2018, a little more than 56% of registered voters in Kansas turned up at the polls, saw about 58% in Missouri. And remember, if you are voting in Missouri, there are some new rules you need to keep in mind, all part of the new sweeping new election law that we've covered here on the program. You can vote absentee without an excuse within 2 weeks of Election Day. Still have to wait on that. Also, you're now required to show current government-issued photo IDs at the polls. Otherwise, you'll have to fill out a provisional ballot. Drop boxes are now banned for absentee ballots, and there are new rules setting restrictions on voter outreach efforts, barring anyone from being paid to help people sign up to vote. Let's say you're working to help more than 10 people register. You have to sign up with the state and be a registered Missouri voter yourself. Earlier this month, here on Heart of the Matter, I asked Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft about that part of the law.
The law doesn't stifle them from helping people to register to vote. We do require them to register with us if they're going out and soliciting registrations. We do that because of fraudulent registration forms we've had. You don't have to get our permission. You just have to fill out the form on the website and you're done.
Several groups like the Missouri NAACP and the League of Women Voters are suing the state as they work to make sure as many people as possible are registered to vote ahead of November. Denise Lieberman represents many of those groups in court. She's the director and general counsel for the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition. It's a nonpartisan voting rights group. Denise, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Cody.
You know, this has to be a strange time for many of these groups as they walk this line, right? Because you have the legal fight, but you have to educate voters, right? You have to sign them up while trying to understand this new law. What are you telling people? What's your advice to them?
Absolutely. We understand this new law is confusing, and it's also unconstitutional, and that's why we are challenging this law in the court. The voter registration and absentee voting restrictions are the strictest in the nation. But in the meantime, we know that voters still need help being able to register to vote, and we're working to ensure that our partners have the tools that they need to be able to ensure that the voters have the assistance and resources they need to make their voices heard this November.
Does that mean events, education events? What do you have?
The Missouri Voter Protection Coalition, our partners, are embarking on a massive public education campaign to educate voters and community groups about the new rules and how they can still work to ensure that people are registered to vote. Our partners are setting up ID acquisition clinics to help people who need assistance getting those underlying documents that they need to get a photo ID, while we're also challenging that requirement in court.
Tell us about those lawsuits and where they stand right now, because you were kind of finding this on two fronts, right?
We sure are. We filed 2 lawsuits challenging the voter registration and absentee voting restrictions as violations of free speech of the civic engagement organizations that work to provide resources and assistance to ensure that underserved communities have the tools and resources they need. We've also filed a lawsuit challenging the voter ID requirements that the Missouri Supreme Court has twice concluded violate the right to vote for Missouri's voters because of the burdens and hurdles that it places on the backs of voters to obtain one of the very limited forms of state ID that's now required to cast a regular ballot in Missouri.
Right, and devil's advocate, I mean, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft came on the program and said, well, actually, and started off the conversation saying it's not required, even though the law uses the word requirement, saying that, you know, this is something people can go and cast provisional ballots, they can still make their voices heard. What's your response to that?
Well, voters shouldn't have to rely on a second-class ballot. Voters who are duly registered to vote, who show up at the polls, who probably have identification that properly identifies themselves. Missouri voters have been identifying themselves at the polls for 20 years, shouldn't be made to cast a second-class ballot that may not count. Many provisional ballots aren't counted for a variety of reasons. In this case, the provisional ballot will not be counted unless the voter returns to the polling place on Election Day with a valid photo ID, or if the signature on the provisional ballot envelope matches the signature on file with the election authority. And we know there's many reasons that those signatures don't match. Some people register to vote online using their finger or a stylus, and all of the other pieces of that provisional ballot form have to be filled out completely, or the vote won't count. And 2 additional poll workers also have to sign that form, or that vote won't count. And we know that here in Missouri, a significant number of provisional ballots go uncounted.
Safe to say it makes it objectively more difficult. You know, I hear this a lot from one of the biggest criticisms about voter ID, right, is, well, why can't people just get a photo ID? What do you say to that?
Well, many people have a photo ID. People that are privileged enough like us to drive and have cars may have a driver's license, but many people don't. About 10% of the population doesn't, and about 6% of Missouri's registered voters don't have a non-expired Missouri issued photo ID. And if you have ever tried to get a state ID and you have any errors on those underlying documents, you know that it is quite a hassle. And if your name is misspelled or mismatched in any way to the other forms of documentation, like your Social Security card, which you'll have to provide as well, you can be forced to go through a bureaucratic maze to reconcile all those underlying documents in order to get a state ID that matches your name and that matches your voter registration.
All right, so it's a difficult battle, an uphill battle, and we'll continue to get an update as you fight the state in court. Denise Lieberman, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Cody.
Important to remember that last day to register to vote for the November election in Missouri is October 12th. The deadline is October 18th in Kansas. Stay with KMBC 9 News as we ramp up our Commitment 2022 coverage leading into the general election. Keep up to date on the issues and the candidates on air and online at KMBC.com.